Hello, everyone. Those of you who have not met me, and I've been able to travel and meet some of you, I am the Director of Communications for the National Council of Negro Women. I actually started at convention 2 years ago. It was my first time in place. And my name is Kevin. The T is silent. I often say that I'm a child of the 60s and I do not know what my parents were smoking. And my last name is Jahannes. Most people call me Jahannes because I went to Hampton. Back then it was Institute, and my father was dean, and they knew his name and not mine. So it became Dr. Jahannes and his son Jahannes. My bio is on there, and you can see all of that. But I think we're just going to try to get right into all of this as I'm moving back and forth. There we go. Arion Jamerson, while she is a graphic designer and marketing guru outside in her business life, she's also the Manhattan section president. So we teamed up together to make this happen. Communications and technology, they work hand in hand. I often joke and say that the smarter the phones get, the less we do, and then we don't know how to do it anymore. I recall when I knew my grandmother and all my aunt's phone numbers and my best friend's phone numbers by heart. Now I barely know mine. And that's because the smartphone keeps it all connected on my computer, and everything is the same thing. There are a couple quotes that I like to deal with, and they kind of put everything in perspective for me. And the first one is communication is a skill that you can learn. It's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of it in your everyday part of your life. And the second one is something that Dr. Cole said to me on the first day when she and I sat down to talk about technology. And she said, when it comes to technology, Brother Jay, not woke. So that meant that to make sure that I was able to explain and maneuver everything so that everybody, she would understand at all times. Now, when I worked for Mayor Shirley Franklin in Atlanta, she said that my job was to take text speak and turn it to plain speak, and then make her sound like she knew what she was talking about. So we kind of do the same thing here, and we try to keep everything smooth and uh, easily operational. So what we're going to talk about today, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. How to be digital, how to promote NCNW brand, and some guidelines and some help in order for for all of us to be on the same page, and how to combine all the things we're going to talk about together so that you can make your section productive and the people in your neighborhood, your city, your state, and across the country, because technology at this point with the internet is global, will know exactly what the message is you're trying to get across.
Hello, everyone. Let's continue on.
Our first part is technology and how to be digital. The first thing we want to talk about is what we're using, virtual meetings. Because in this COVID time, we're all sitting at home. As you can tell, I'm in my new apartment. I'm still unpacking. Uh, but everything now either is on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. I did a family reunion not too long ago using Zoom. So these are some of the tools that are used at Zoom. Some of them cost and some of them don't. Freeconferencecall.com used to be for phones, and now they've upgraded. So now you can actually do same thing we're doing now. You can talk to 3 or 4 people at the same time. Apple, of course, has FaceTime. Even Facebook has Facebook that you can talk to multiple people face to face now. WebEx meetings are used by a lot of business companies because it's one of the more secure, but it's also one of the more expensive. If you've ever been to any of our webinars, we use GoToWebinar, which is a offshoot of GoToMeeting. The difference is the software is on the cloud, so it's embedded that way. And of course, we're using Zoom now to simulcast in 5 different rooms at the same time. So It takes some gymnastics, as you've been aware of during the sessions. Some people remember to cut their mics on, some people don't. Um, some people have a telephone and their computer on, and you get the echo sound. So you have to be aware of what you're doing when doing these.
Okay, so digital design. So what we're looking at here are some icons for some different programs that are available for you to use. So when we're creating any flyers or for an event or a program, we want to make sure we follow these steps. So I've outlined 6 steps here that are very helpful. So you first want to start with your 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why, and how. So that seems very simple, right? Just to figure out what exactly it is that you're going to be putting into these flyers and designs. Next, you're going to look at the text. So now you have your information, you can start building out these flyers and designs that you need to work on. So you're going to work on crafting your wording. So that means coming up with some of these catchy headlines, or even your photos, everything else that you'll need.
I don't know.
Go back one slide.
Sorry about that.
There we go. And you're also going to have a call to action. So when people are looking at your flyers, you want to be sure that they know what to do. Should they be buying your tickets? Should they be going online to your website to look for different things? So you want to make sure that is clear as well. You want to have visuals. So that means you need to kind of collect different photos. Maybe you need headshots. You may also need logos. So you want to have all of those things together. And then you're looking at your target audience. So now it's kind of time to design. You're thinking about, well, who do I want to come to my event? Or who do I want to really reach from when they see this flyer? So next, you'll look at your color palette. And of course, if it's an NCNW event, we probably should be using our brand colors, which we'll talk a little bit more about in this later part of the section. Also, you'll look at developing a theme. So if your event is for a parade or if it's for a fundraiser, there's certain kind of theme that you have, which will also help with some of those ideas for those graphics, some of your headlines. And so the design tip, many apps have templates that you can just plug in your information. So one of the icons that we're looking at on the right, the teal circle, is Canva. That is one that when I'm not designing away, I want to do something quick and dirty, and I don't really have time. They have a lot of free templates that you can download this app. It's available for your phones as well as your desktop computer. And you can go into Canva and quickly put in your text into an already designed layout. And that means you can just add your photos, you add your date, and then within like 10 minutes, you can have a professional looking flyer designed. But it only takes 10 minutes if you have all of your 5 W's, you have all of your text, you have all your visuals ready to go. And so some of the other ones below are icons of a couple other design softwares that you can use: Sketch, Vector, GIMP. I haven't used those personally, but I think Jahannes has. And so some of those as well, he might want to speak on briefly.
GIMP is really Illustrator, but a free version, and it's web-based. Vector is similar to that. So instead of going, Adobe Illustrator is the end-all be-all. We all talk, everybody knows Adobe, but nobody has $50 a month or $700 a year in their budget. So I just put up some others that Sketch is similar to Canva that you can use, so you can get things done without going into the pocket.
Right, so some of these options we're mentioning here, of course, Adobe is the professional design software that is used for photography. You've probably heard of Photoshop. Illustrator, we just spoke about, is to create vector graphics, which are similar to the logos that you're seeing here. And then InDesign we use as well, which is kind of like a page layout when you have multiple pages. So that is the industry standard, but we do realize that for some of these organizations and different events, you may not have a professional designer on your team. And so these are options that you can utilize to also get the job done.
Okay, so now that you have a design, you have the 5 W's and the H, you have an idea of what you're going to do. You have an event, you have a target audience, you've done all your research, and you designed this wonderful flyer. The next thing to do is to send it to everybody, which becomes social media. Now, social media, we all know what it is, but at the same time, It's a little more than just uh, getting a flyer and clicking a button. Part of that is planning social media. You want to get your target audience to look at your particular graphic or video first and always. So you have to plan when to send it out. You have to plan when to space things out. For example, this week we've had 6 different events. We've had Dr. Cole talk to the press. She was on Oprah own channel in the middle of the convention. So we had to kind of maneuver and decide when we were going to let things fly. So that comes into what we have here is Hootsuite and Social Bakers, which are aggregators really. But what they can allow you to do is they have a calendar. You can plug in all of your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, and put the picture up and the links up and say, I want this to go out at 2 o'clock on Thursday, or I want this to go out at 8 a.m. on the 25th of December. Many of them allow you to do at least 3 months in advance. So you can look at the entire digital calendar and know what's coming out in advance, as well as you can plan for multiple things. For example, when we do the webinars, we plan for the webinars to come out, but at the same time, we have reactions to things like what's happening in the news, some major person passing. So we might have to shift the time when we're going to have it come out. Then we also have to take into account that we are nationwide. So if we want something to go at 8 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, that may wake somebody up on the West Coast, because it's what, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning there, and I'm not trying to get anybody mad at me. So we think of those things in planning. So that's why we use Hootsuite and Social Bakers for those. Now they have some free versions, and then they have a individual version, and then they have enterprise versions. So it's what you're trying to do that is the level of money. The good thing about these things is they also have analytics. What that means is every time you put out a Instagram post or a Facebook post or a Twitter, they stop and they take the information that says, okay, you sent this out and 62 people of the 2,000 people that follow you actually opened it. So you're like, okay, well, that means I don't need to send this out at 8 o'clock in the morning anymore. My target audience is better if I send it out at 2 p.m. So you can actually gauge and you can learn from what you've done using those. And then we've added some social media icons. Some you know, some you may not know. Of course, Facebook, Instagram are the top ones. Twitter's been around for a while. We're getting more into video displays, which is Snapchat and TikTok. And just to kind of throw something in there that many people may not know about, because just because it's not known, people are making new apps and new designs. And this is an African-American company, and it's called the Cookout. So this is how you can go to the Cookout. You'll see the icon there. Another individual made one about Greek fraternities and sororities. But I looked at this, and also I joined, and now they're in a 2.0 stage. So it's similar to Facebook. It has some things, but there's an activity that's kind of different. And we always talk about, you act up, we're gonna kick you at the cookout, or we're not gonna invite you to the next cookout. So that's just something for you to look at that's different.
I guess we'll look forward to that Cookout app next year. All right, so you have your event, you're promoting it, it's online. We're also looking at some options for online payments. We know that this is a big deal right now, especially with maybe not being in person and being able to do some of those hand-to-hand transactions that we're used to doing. So we've outlined a few online payment options here. Cash App, which one is very familiar. You use the $sign and then you have a username after the $sign. So with the Cash App, you can send payments instantaneously. There are no fees for you to transfer that money to your bank account as long as you don't need it immediately. If you wanted the money to be available instantly, there is a 25-cent fee. So PayPal, one that people are probably very familiar with. When you're using that for handling transaction, if you're not using friends and family option, there is a fee. You can register as a nonprofit to save a little bit on that fee for 2.2. If not, it would be the 2.9% fee plus the 30 cents. So you have to think about that when you are charging for your event, that, you know, or you're collecting money for different things. If that fee is involved and you're expecting to receive $50 for that event, then you need to add a little bit extra on so that PayPal fee is covered. Zelle is a great option as well. Only thing is that certain banks are using that system and some are not. Also, it may not be applicable. I know my section, we were looking into Zelle for a business account. So it's more for personal accounts. So that's something to think about too. But the good thing is a lot of banks are within there. And so you can get the money instantly pretty much if you're transferring back and forward. Venmo is another one that's similar to the PayPal option. There is a fee for the ATM withdrawals. If you're using it without being in their network, it's 25 cents. And then electronic withdrawals are 1% with a minimum of the 25 cents. And then if you're sending money using your credit card, they have a 3%. So a lot of people have these different phones devices. So you may be familiar with the Apple Pay and the Google Pay. Apple Pay will have an instant transfer fee of 25 cents with a max of $10. And then Google Pay will have the 2.9 credit card fee. So as you can go through, you'll see that these are different options. Pretty much, you know, banking free isn't really an option. So you have to really look at how big your transactions are, how many times you're going to be utilizing these transfers and these transactions to really gauge what is best for your group and how you can easily access these funds if you need those monies right away, and how your membership also can utilize these platforms and how receptive they'll be. Because of course, you'll probably still need to have the regular snail mail check payments as an option, as well, in addition to online, because we do understand that everyone isn't going to be comfortable with these platforms or have access to using them on a frequent basis. So you definitely want to think about those things.
And it's also a way that you can actually get sections to pay their dues directly to the section, and then the section can send it up to national electronically as opposed to a hard copy check. And that way they're lost.
So we definitely need to know that information for this year. I think we'll be doing more of those online transactions for national.
So then we have electronic distribution. Many of you have received 8 billion emails in the course of the past 48 hours that all has come through either our interaction with our Constant Contact, which is what NCNW uses, and also the Hover app. So we make sure, so we use Constant Contact because it has a certain limitation on how many people, it doesn't have a limitation on how many people. I mean, we have several lists, and it allows you to, excuse me, and it allows you to filter your contact list. For example, if Atlanta is having something, one of the Atlanta sections, we'll say the cab section, and they want the entire section to, the entire state to know about it, they can let us know about it, and we're able to just send a Constant Contact email to everybody in that state. Or if there's something happening in that area, we're able to send it to Alabama, Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Florida, instead of distributing it all over. Simultaneously, we can also break it down to if there's something medical or anything, we can go through our Constant Contact and say, okay, we've already got groups of doctors and nurses and emergency personnel. So there's a way to segment out that same thing. MailChimp is a similar company. Their prices are a little different. And this is your slide?
Well, we're sharing it, I guess.
Okay.
Because I'm definitely a MailChimp user.
So you talk about MailChimp.
So I use MailChimp for my clients. It works out pretty well due to the pay scale. It's, I think, a little bit cheaper than Constant Contact. If you start with a free account with them, you can have up to 2,000 subscribers. but you'll be very limited with that free account. But if you're just starting out with some of the online email distribution, then that's one that you may want to try. If you look at their essential plans, they start at $10, and basically you'll get access to templates and different things that you need to have a little bit more business effective campaign. But if you're doing this for NCNW for your section, definitely check out doing the free account and how you can automatically, upload your list. You can import that. So if you already have a spreadsheet with all your contacts, you can import that list easily. And then you can start on your campaigns, as they call them, which is any email that goes out. You'll be able to see exactly who opens your emails, because people always say, oh, I didn't get that email. You'll be able to see they got it, they didn't open it, or they got it, they opened it and didn't respond. So that's one of the things that you do get analytics with that. You'll be able to see your bounce rate, meaning that I sent an email to someone and it didn't go through, or their email server for some reason didn't accept it. You'll be able to see that as well. So there's a lot of things on the back end that you can see with using these platforms than sending your regular Gmail or Yahoo email.
And along with that, you can actually integrate the others, the other three down there. Issue, if anybody gets, I hope you get, Sisters Magazine. How we've gone and changed their carbon footprint is not print them, but make them digital. And we use Issue, and there's a couple others like that. As well as information goes out in that business sector, we kind of try to celebrate what Black women are doing. So we put those stories out either in our LinkedIn account, which I hope everybody joins our LinkedIn group. And also we put out op-eds and stuff on our Medium account. And I need to hit the button.
Okay, so group chat and text messages. So these are options when you need to communicate with a lot of people quickly, or if you have a lot of communications daily, but you don't want to send emails because it's not exactly email formatted, meaning they're quick things like you would text with your girlfriends, or you text with family members. So you can also do this for your organization. So we've outlined 3 different ones here that are pretty helpful. You have your Google Hangouts, there's WhatsApp, and a GroupMe. And so some of the benefits of using one of these platforms is that you can add and remove people quickly. So with some of these group text threads, you have people on there that you say later, okay, I want to remove them, but now you have to start that thread all over again. And then you'll also lose all of the thread chats. So now you have to start fresh. With one of these platforms, you can remove and put people in, and it won't affect the flow of the text. So you can always scroll back up later and say, oh, there's a comment or a link that I needed. But without having to start over, all of that contact information and things will be there. There are control settings for who has access. So that means people just can't join your GroupMe or your WhatsApp chat and your Google Hangouts. They have to be approved, or they have to be added in. There's admin rights. So meaning that certain people can control how that is done. So depending on if you have a membership base and say, hey, we're going to do membership for the year, and then say maybe the next year, you need to remove people because they don't renew. You have someone that can control who is seeing these messages at that time. So it allows for quick responses. So it's just like you're texting. People can jump in and out and put in their messages versus waiting for email, especially if, people are doing these on their phone. They're pretty quick apps. They'll, flash on their screen depending on what settings they have for notifications. So once again, you can control the alerts received. Sometimes these chats have a lot of back and forth, and I'm sure at that point you're thinking, this is overwhelming. I sometimes go back in my chat with my friends and we've had a busy day and there's like 100 messages I've missed. So I can turn those alerts off. And that way I'm not bothered when I'm at work or when I'm doing something that I need to be productive and my phone isn't lighting up every 2 seconds because somebody is texting in these chats. You're not dependent on certain type of device or a carrier. So if you are used to iMessenger because you have iPhones and you can't talk to Androids, these apps utilize the platform that allows all of these different communications to come together. You download the Android version of the app. I'll download the iPhone version, and we'll still all be able to sync up in this app. You can add calendar events. So there's some of these options where you can schedule events. So say we're gonna have a movie night, I can throw it in the calendar so everybody can know that that's happening with GroupMe. You can do that. WhatsApp doesn't have a calendar, but you can definitely pull up links and different things like that. And with the Google Hangouts doesn't have that as well. But one thing with all of them you can do is share photos and documents. WhatsApp has basically the highest capabilities of receiving high-res photos and different documents as well right in the app. I know sometimes when you text with different devices, those photos are down saved, so you lose resolution and quality. But if you're using WhatsApp, that's one of the benefits of that app. Also, there are no costs for these platforms, basically. You know, you use them at your leisure. You do sign to their rights, but it is very effective for those that want to use these messaging systems.
Okay, so in this modern day and age, we went from still pictures to video, and we've never turned back, we never looked back. So that's where we are now, a whole bunch of video content. Take it over.
So with video, I just wanted to highlight some things here just because it's very important. It says here, these are some stats, 75 million people in the US watch online videos every day. So these are some of the things that we should be thinking about when we're promoting our own events and different things that our section are doing, is thinking about adding some video, especially because we know a lot of the social media platforms are heavily video based. So barely mentioning the word video in an email subject line, the clicks rates increased by 13%. I thought that was a phenomenal stat that I didn't even know until looking up for this PowerPoint. So, you know, these are different things to think about. You have, you know, setting up a YouTube channel. I know my section, we don't have a YouTube channel, but that's something as we get into video content, we'll think about doing. Jahannes, you want to talk about the Nationals YouTube channel?
Yes, we do have a YouTube channel. In fact, we've had one for a few years. We've utilized more in the past 2 years. In fact, if you've been on our website, the 2019 historic video on the front page was actually part of our YouTube channel. The Adulting 101 commercials and everything was a part of our YouTube channel. And you can get analytics from them as well. So you can see who saw it when and what's the best time to premiere it. We premiered part of the entire program with Angela Rye on Facebook, but we also synced with that YouTube channel, and people across, not the country, the globe, as I looked back at the analytics, we're watching because, you know, people like Angela Rye, they now introduced to Yellow Pain, and that young man has blown up, as they say. So YouTube is good. The bad thing about YouTube that I always think is at the end, you have no control. So when it stops, you have 7 or 10 squares of stuff that might be related, and then 4 or 5 squares that YouTube decides that they want to put up, so to get other people to click on it. And that's why we also use Vimeo if we're doing something professional that is going to like our corporate partners or doing something for grants, because it's higher quality and it also doesn't have any open backlash.
And also one of the things is once you have your video on these different platforms, you can get code to embed it into your website. You can then repost it on different social media channels as far as like your Facebook. So it's a great way to share your video content without actually having to also send somebody a 30, 40, 50, 60 megabyte file. You can send them a link. They'll be able to use it and see your content without the hassle of some of the back-end technical issues.
We embed all of our current webinars. As they come up, we put them on YouTube, and then we use the embed code to put it in our NCNW page. And for the first part, we're at questions for this section. And there were some of you that gave us some questions prior to, so we just kind of added them up here. We'll start with the first one. Some section members may not have laptops, latest cell phones, iPads. Do you have any suggestions to keep them informed? That's where Constant Contact and MailChimp come in my opinion, because they are, almost everyone has email at this point. They might not, some may use it more than others, of course, but even in Constant Contact, we can embed the video in the Constant Contact email. So it will help out. What do you think?
I was glancing at the chat. What was the question? Sorry.
If people don't have the latest laptops or cell phones, what are your suggestions to keep folks informed?
So that is a problem with our section because we know everyone isn't as tech savvy. So you still have to have a dedicated team member on your staff that can give those phone calls. We're using Zoom because it does have the call-in phone number. So even though they may not be seeing all of the visuals, they at least can hear the content. And sometimes that's good enough for them because they do understand their technical challenges, but they also feel that they're not left out. So you just kind of want to make sure that there is some call-in number. We are trying to get better with sending some things out earlier because they'll need to have certain things in writing to look at some of those reports. So there's also, with that fact, knowing that if you're not going to meet in person, there is some behind the scenes work that has to be done prior in a timely manner so that everyone has communications and information.
So the next question was, knowing what we know about social media and how powerful it is and influential it is to sections, what advice and perspective is on the issue of approaching the 2020 election? Now, I have to say for the record that NCNW is bipartisan. We don't go one way or the other, but as a people, we have strongly invested in voting. So we use technology to make sure that people are doing exactly that. And you can use those same things. There's nothing wrong that says you can make a personal graphic and use social media, and not only use it on social media, but email it to your relatives. Like I said, I did a family reunion by Zoom, and one of the things that we sent to everybody was a map of their polling places, just to give you an idea of what to do. And we sent them a couple of links like vote.org just to check to see if they're registered. So you can use technology to make sure that everybody is on the same page come November 3rd.
Right. The only thing I would add is that, utilizing your platforms to make sure people are educated on the election process. So, if your section is posting some kind of election social media campaign, until November 3rd, that's helpful as well. There's also the phone banking and calling in to check with people and making sure that they are registered. I know for New York, our deadline is coming up for, I believe, October 9th. So if you know what your state's regulations are for registering to vote, then you want to know that you're getting that message out there as well. So all you can really do is make sure you spread the information and you spread the correct information if you are spreading any information.
Third question is, everything is virtual? Yes, it is. Does NCNW partner with any virtual meeting companies so that members can get a discount? We've actually been asked this question, and when it was first brought up, I reached out to a couple of companies because we're growing. We went from when I started 200 something sections to 320 now. So I'm hoping that we can have some type of relationship with Zoom or a Zoom-like company that will give us a discount. That way sections can continue to communicate. But the best answer for that is it's in progress. We kind of had to put that on hold so we could plan adulting 101 in the convention, but it's on our October to-do list.
So I'm just gonna jump in the chat. There was a couple questions. Maria Dudley asked about text messages. I think we covered that with the GroupMe and the WhatsApp are favorable options, but of course you can still do text threads, but the issue is there are some limitations with the number of phone numbers you can do with a text thread, as well as being able to easily remove and take people out and add in as you move forward. Another question from Jean Moses Petrie, is MailChimp just for Gmail and Yahoo? What about .net and .co addresses? So MailChimp is just the platform that is going to send out your email. You have to then register your email account to use it. So it will be acceptable for .coms, .edus, .orgs. So it's just a matter of utilizing that platform. And then you have to verify that your actual account is valid, whatever your email address is. There were questions about getting copies of these PowerPoints. I believe they have answered that as well, that it'll be available after the session.
All the PowerPoints will end up on the website as a part of the overview of the entire convention. So we'll put them all in together, but we'll put them in almost like the agenda.
Yvonne Hart asks, what can we do to get our seniors engaged with technology? Is there a training program? So with COVID, I know my section, we have been going virtual, which actually, because some of our members did not want to be without, they have purchased new laptops, they have purchased tablet devices because they realize how important it is, not even only just to keep up with the section, but your own family members and friends during this time. So what can you do to engage them? If you have someone, if they have the resources to purchase tablets and, you know, laptops, they have some of these laptops you can get for $200-300, Chromebooks. They don't have to be state of the art, especially if you know this person really is only going to be using it for internet access. They're not going to be downloading all these different games and, you know, needing to do design work on. So some of these very minimal products will work for them. You need to have someone that can help train and walk them through some of this stuff. So that may be a little bit difficult right now if you have to social distance and you're not able to be there. But if you know some of your members have grandkids, or they have nieces and nephews, even maybe their own children, depending on how old they are, they can help them, you know, kind of just opening up that conversation and making sure you work with them. I know for my section, I'm trying to launch this Leave No One Behind platform this year, is that outlining all of those members who have technical challenges and having one-on-one conversations with them to see, is there anything we can do? Maybe it's, you know, they do have grandkids, but none of them are, you know, within the state with them. So they don't have that resource. So then let's say, how else can we help them to become technical savvy this year? You know, what can we do? So I'm really looking at that myself, because there are a few members that, you know, they just won't do it, and that's just their prerogative. So you have to kind of respect that. But then you have to explain to them they're going to be limited in some of their interactions right now while we're virtual, and they may just accept that. And if they don't, then like I said, then they're open to, you know, getting some technical help, you know, having someone sit down and show them, then that's also the best case scenario. One other question is, do you recommend GroupMe for large sections? Yes, I definitely do recommend GroupMe. Like I said, it's not the end-all communications. You still need to have your formal letters and different things go out, but it is helpful to have these threads where people can interact with each other, especially when you're sending out, you know, just kind of like good morning texts or checking in with people. If you want to do some weekly check-ins with people, that doesn't have to be an email thread. That can be something that you do in those apps. Jahannes, this question would be for you, is what is better for inline newsletter distribution? That's from Anise Jackson.
Well, Ms. Jackson, there are a couple of platforms out there, and the reason why we were the issue is because, first of all, when we first started out, we had zero budget, and it's easy to take a PDF and turn it into a inline book, but also there's a couple others like Flipbook, and Microsoft has one similar, but it's more of a preference of how deep and how heavy your document is. We have a lot of pictures, so our files are pretty huge, but at the same time, we want it so it can be uploaded real quickly so everybody can see it. Some others, like Microsoft thing, is really quick, but it's also like the old-fashioned newsletter where you have everything blocked. So it all depends on how robust your your document is. But again, you can link that to your MailChimp. You can link that to your Constant Contact. You can put it on your Facebook page. So it's still, the distribution goes further. And you can connect it to your WhatsApp and also your GroupMe chat. That's the thing about technology. They're all interactive. They all blend.
And we're going to take this last question and then move forward with the presentation. Jean Moses Petrie asks, what platform is recommended for online storing of documentations? Jahannes, I'll have you take that one.
Say that again?
What platform is recommended for online storing for documents? So maybe a Google Drive, but you may have some other insight.
Yeah, it all depends because again, the cloud-based, I'm old school. Even though I use the cloud on a regular basis, I have 3 external drives on connected to my laptop as we speak. One is just for graphics and music. The other is some business stuff. And you know, I have unfortunately been in a situation where my computer bricked. That means I cut it on, it didn't, and it was only good as a paperweight at that particular point. So I'm a little sketchy. I actually, when we do a lot of transfer stuff, for example, everything that's all these PowerPoints, all the videos, all of that is in a Google Drive folder that 12 people are sharing just to make the conference happen. So I mean, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. There's a whole bunch of free space you can get in Dropbox and Google Drive and iCloud. But then if you're using it more, you can get 2 terabytes. Excuse me, but it might be $99 a year. So it all depends on how much transfer information that your organization has. I currently, because NCNW's network of our email addresses are on Google Drive, I mean, so it's connected, so we get some free space. That's what we're using for NCNW.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the next part of our presentation.
All right. And the next part of the presentation is branding. Someone is drawing on the presentation named Tito.
It's not me.
I just happen to see these green and blue lines.
Want to check with our tech lead?
Yes. I do not know how that is happening. Especially since it's being run from my computer. Well, so anyway, we'll move forward. The brand. This is what many people have been waiting for. So I am to understand that before I came on board, as I said, it was a convention, the logo was changed. Mr. Glenn calls it the Eternal Circle, and it has pictures of the ladies on the inside. First of all, if anybody knows who those ladies are, I'd love to find out so that we can do a story in the history of that particular logo. But currently, this is our logo. It's in the top right corner. And what we've done is give you an idea of how to best use the colors that we use for NCNW in branding to make it pop. And here's some examples here. And you can do in a pinch, like we've done on our webinars, on our icons that are circular for Zoom and everything else. Use just we call it the 633 oval. And it is an oval. For some reason, people want to make it a circle. It's an oval. And to go along with that, there's typography. Nice way of saying fonts or lettering. You know, with the college, you got to learn to say a $3 word every now and then. So our number 1 is Wolf Sans Regular, and it can be downloaded for free. That is what the NCNW letters actually are. And Commitment Unity and Self-Reliance is also in that particular font. So you can have that font in your computer to use when you're typing things. And the font that goes along with them when we use letterhead or do business cards, stuff like that, is Century Gothic and Century Gothic Bold. Those two compare, they complement each other because one is sans serif, the other has a little more girth to it. And then we talk about the identity of using it on a section and state level. And what we've done here is just give you an idea of how to put the naming variation, remove the Commitment, Unity, and Self-Reliance, and put your name directly under it. because if you do it otherwise, if things get a little too jumbled, a little too small. This is clean and clear. It's easy to be embroidered if you're doing shirts. It's easy to be done and actually done. See, there's Manhattan section right there. They already did it. And these are the primary colors. The main color, of course, is Ms. Mathis calls it plum, but that is the actual Pantone 520C color, and it's in 80% of any design program. You can pull up the Pantone, and you can get also the web variation. And then the secondary colors are the melon and peach, she says. I just go with what she says because she's been here longer than me.
So we're full of purples and oranges.
We're fruits. We got plums, oranges, and melons. And then we have a few of the don'ts. We are one organization, even though we are spread out across the entire country, and we have members all across the globe because we have members in the military. But we still need to be in the same conformity, because an army of women who are 2 million strong coming at you with the same logo, you're going to pay attention to them. So we're asking that we stop being creative and making our own logos. Please. And again, don't change the shape. It's not round, it's oval. Don't reverse the order. The building comes before the name, always on the left side. And of course, like I said, there were some questions that were done prior to, and I think we answered the first one, and the second one, knowing what you know about social media, how powerful is it, influential as it is on the previous election? I think we answered that one as well. So if you have any other questions in the question box at this time about that.
Anise Jackson asked, can we get high resolutions of the NCNW logo? Jahannes, I know we had spoke about possibly getting section logos for people, but I'm not sure where we are currently.
After convention, what we're going to do is give you a zip file. We can get this done because we have so many new sections. We decided to do them all. And hopefully within the first 30 days after this, we will email to each section a zip file, provided we have a correct email address. Let me say that. Of the fonts, the actual logo in purple and in black and white, that you can push,
right,
that you can put up on your Microsoft documents, that you can use for everything, so everybody has the exact same stuff.
Right, so that means sections. We will be supplying you with the appropriate logo to use. You will be getting the fonts that were just in this presentation, as well as a branding guide, which goes over the do's and don'ts. It'll list the colors that you're supposed to use, what those Pantone numbers are, what the breakdowns are in CMYK when you're doing print, or RGB when you're on the web with your hex numbers. And so you'll be able to utilize this color palette that we are just saw in this presentation, but you'll be able to adapt it for yourself.
Yep. Any other questions?
So is there a branding kit that'll be available to sections? So that was just answered with getting these documents, you said, within a month or so?
Yes.
For all the sections, and mind you, there's over 300 sections.
So we'll do our best. Now, is there a group calendar application that is recommended? Again, that is at the discretion of the section, because we, NCNW.org, we use a Google-based email address, so a calendar comes with that, and we have created stuff like our department, we have a communication calendar, so that 5 or 6 people can see things. It allows you to, like the president can create a communication calendar on there and then sign everybody up to just to view. It kind of helps everybody be on the same page. But there are a couple of different products to use. There's one no better than the other. It's pros and cons on each one of them. It's what the section is comfortable with. Do you use one, Arion?
So a calendar, actually, that's something we're looking at because as we're having all of these meetings, I've tried doing the Gmail calendar, which seems to allow other non-Gmail users to add it to some kind of calendar and receive notifications. But that's not something we've done a lot of yet.
It's been more of a question in these COVID times.
Yeah.
Yes, it says, will the section presidents, yes, when we send that email out to the sections, we'll most likely have the section president's email address on there. Like many sections have an info or something like that. So we'll go through the list and we'll work with Mr. Glenn to get the most current name.
And then there was one other question. Just to clarify, the section name should be in all lowercase letters as reflected in the examples.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I think there was one more. Let's see, one more. Someone asked, will the standardization of the branding campaign change traditional section colors? We typically wear section colors for certain events.
Well, I would say that the purple is now the traditional section color. Of course, I remember on Miss Dr. Bethune's birthday, we all had on yellow, and we've done certain different things. But the overall is purple is plum is the primary color. I sound like Quincy Jones on The Wizard of Oz, where they changed the whole color. But that's kind of where we're going. We're moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole plan is that no matter where you see NCNW, you know it's NCNW because you're seeing the same colors. I know in my state, when we do a march and we invite all of the sections to participate, we all have on these different colors. And so it's not as impactful when we're all coming together that, when we're marching together in a parade or something like that, that we have all these different colors and people are like, well, what organization are you with? And what organization are you with? And so that's the goal, is that, we are in, different countries or, with different states. We want people to recognize NCNW and have that strong impact by knowing right away who we are, by when they see us in a sea of purple and melon.
And to be honest with you, for example, when they last march on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, I knew of at least 10 sections that were there. I could not identify all the 10 sections if I took a large picture because people were wearing different things. And we want to stand together. So that's also a part of making this branding work. And we're going to move forward on to the next section,
yes,
which would be just do it. How to apply all that we've talked about to your section. And for that, I have an expert. And that would be Ms. Jamerson.
So branding your section. It is important that you brand your section based on these tidbits here. So we're just going to ignore the importance of a website because that should have been changed. But know your brand identity. So your brand message, your brand colors, your logo design, and looking at those secondary elements, graphics, and patterns. So what exactly does that mean? Our brand message. So we're going to basically be feeding you a lot of this information about what NCNW is, what we stand for. So whenever you are working on something, it should be very clear that NCNW is a nonprofit organization. We are here to promote women and their families, and we stand for certain pillars with the programming and events that we host. So our brand colors, we just talked about that and how the logo design is set for us. Some secondary graphic elements. If you're looking in this PowerPoint, we are using the building as a graphic element that is repeated. So people see that building icon all the time and they know that's NCNW. So that is the icon branding that we are working on with NCNW. So feel free to utilize that as well in some of your section programming. Implement your brand identity. So now it's time to put it into everything that you are working on that has your name. So you're going to start with your stationery set. So your business card, letterheads, email signatures. You're going to also apply it to your website and social media and your marketing materials. So every time someone sees you, they know it's you because your brand message is consistent, your colors are consistent, the logo is consistent. They know that that's NCNW every time they interact with you. Marketing to your identified target audience. So you want to make sure that you are creating useful and relevant content. So those flyers, you want to make sure that they reach the people that you're going to outreach for these events, who you want to come. You want to make sure that in addition to the colors and the branding, that the graphics align to who you are trying to target. You may also want to do some targeted advertising. If you're promoting an event, you can easily do some of this on Instagram and Facebook with some of those ads. They have a minimal amount that you can spend. You can spend like $5. It just depends on how many people you want to reach. And then in addition, how many days you want that campaign to run. So if you say, okay, we have $50 for advertising for the month, you can put that amount in. Facebook will automatically figure out how many times that ad will run during that time based on your budget. So referral and incentive marketing. So of course, sometimes that's, you're posting a post and then you ask somebody to share it. So that's kind of a referral. Also incentive, meaning if you sign up for something, you may get a discount. So think about that if you're looking at your email list, or hey, you'll offer some free information because they have signed up with you for your email newsletter, or they're coming to your event for the first 50 free, get a raffle ticket. So think of different things that you can do that will gear people to come to your event and your programming. We know with everything being virtual, people are getting a million links to come to their Zoom, come to their webinar, come to this and that. So, you gotta be creative and think about ways that you can stand out. So here we have an example of the stationery set. So I am the president of the Manhattan section. As I've been working on the branding with NCNW on the national level for the last, I don't know how many years, but as president, I have been able to take this experience and now implement it into the Manhattan section. So I've been the president for the past 2 years. I'm now going into my second term. I think my section has easily transitioned over, whether they really wanted to or not, may be the question. But we have been subtly implementing our branding. So, we started out subtly with, just putting the logo on certain things. And then as the president, I've been able to incorporate it into our letterhead. This is one of the things when we're printing our new business cards, our logo will be on here. So you're just starting to attach it to everything that your name is on. So here you will see some flyers for our events and programming. So what I have done is to try to keep my job easy with designing flyers is to set up a template design. So you'll see here 3 different flyers for 3 different events, but they follow a template style. So I am using consistency of the fonts that I use, the Harambe celebration one. That one is a little bit unique because we had used that font before for something I had designed. So I wanted to kind of keep that, and it's very cultural diverse with that font. So I kept that font, but every time else I use the fonts, they're all the same in all the flyers, you'll notice. I've also kept the setup the same for all of the flyers. You'll see all of the content is on the left-hand side, and on the right side, we typically have a graphic, something to draw people into the flyer. And then if you look toward the bottom, you'll see the date, and then there is a color block there. And I put that in color on purpose because it's the most important information. It's the address, it's the phone number, it's the instructions on what it is you're supposed to be doing. It's that call of action. So you'll see there right underneath, there's sometimes your little detailed information, the stuff that's kind of like the smaller fine print. And it's also our social media contact there. So you'll be able to see where we are on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow us at NCNW Manhattan. On both of platforms, we have the same handles. That is one thing that is important, to try to keep your handles the same, because that way on each device, or excuse me, each platform, people can easily find you. They don't have to worry about you underscore this or your hyphen that. They'll be able to easily go there. And then on the right-hand side is the logo, and it has my name as the section president. that should be on the communications. So like I said, these are 3 different events. They have a different look because of the color palette that is utilized. However, they are in sync because I'm using the same fonts. I'm using the same template format as far as where the content falls. The main thing that just kind of rotates in and out are the colors, depending on what the event is, and the graphics. So that's a way to have it structured and organized, but also a way to have a variety and be able to reach. So we also did a census and cookie event. So we wanted to promote that. And so that was a fun graphic to kind of play with these cookies that people would hand out for that event. Then you'll also see at the bottom, we were able to incorporate the logos. You do have sponsors sometimes that need to be on your flyer as well. So we had to think about how to utilize their content into our content as well. And then the last flyer on the right is a little bit different because we were having an installation ceremony. So it was important to get all of our officers' headshots in. So of course that little side on the right wouldn't fit. And since we didn't have much text to really talk about, it was more like, hey, this is the date, these are the people, come on our Zoom and we're gonna be installed. So that was very simpler flyer as far as the amount of content, wasn't as heavy as some of the other events. So that way we made an adaptation to this layout. However, we're still using the same fonts. We're using the NCNW color palette, and we're able to quickly get these flyers and things done because we're using a template and I don't have to think about a new design each time. It's more of like, well, hey, what new background may I use? Or, you know, what's the topic? And then I can find a quick graphic.
Nicely done.
So now the importance of a website. So we want to talk about section websites. So you may or may not have one. If you do have one, hopefully it could be a .com, it could be a .net. However, we are a nonprofit organization, so a .org is preferable. The importance of a website, it builds credibility with a website. So you say, hey, I'm a nonprofit group, I have a website. People want to look you up. And I know for me, I personally judge everybody if you do or do not have a website, because it means the money that you invest into, you know, spreading the information about your organization, and it just builds your credibility, which is the main thing. People want to know that you really exist if they can find you on the web. So of course, it provides accessibility around the clock. Someone could be looking up stuff at midnight and they'll stumble upon you. You don't have to be awake to read their emails or for them to know about what's going on in your event. You want to make the first right impression with a professional website design. And what some of that things that are involved in that is having a simple navigation. People can easily click your events. They can learn about you. They know where your programs are. It's an attractive design, something that pulls them in and they're able to see right away what's going on. You have photos of some of your members, your community service projects. They can see that you're a section that is active. Helpful content that they need to know. So if you're having an event, is your event on your website? Is it a ticket event? Can I get the link from there on your website to go buy my ticket? Search engine optimization, SEO, that's more for tracking purposes, people being able to Google and find you. So using keywords, making sure that your name is in some of the text, your photos, have captions and different things like that that are searched on the internet. So that's a little bit more complex. We won't get into that, but I just wanted to notate that. So we talked a lot about social media. So this graphic here I found is just giving a basic overview of the sizing. So each social media platform, when you post a photo, you have these banner images that you use, and you also have profile pictures. And so this is a little cheat sheet here that goes over the different sizes for those elements because they're all different. Sometimes the way to cheat it for me is that if you can do something in a square, that way it's kind of accessible on all the platforms. But when you're doing some of those banners and different things like that, they're all different sizes. So we won't go in depth into that, but that is a cheat sheet, and just wanted to notate that there are different sizes you should be using for these profile images and different banners. So on social media, you can use tagging. So just kind of wanted to talk about that. Tags is when you use the @ symbol before someone's name. You may be familiar with that on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Tags can be used for a person's name or a business name. You just want to make sure that you are tagging the correct person. Sometimes you may think someone who has a common name or a certain business, and you tag them and you realize later that you didn't tag the right person. So of course you can fix it. But what I like to do is to kind of look up those tags before I tag them to make sure I tag the right person, especially if it's someone that you're not friends with or a business, an organization that you are not as familiar with. Just check out to make sure before you tag. So it's also indication that you are mentioning someone. They receive a notification. And one of the good things about that is that, you know, they may repost once they see that they're tagged to something. And that's also a marketing strategy too, to include those tags. Tags are public. Notifications are private though. So not everyone will know exactly, but the tags will be public so people can see them, but also depends on if you are tagged personally, you may have settings that you have to approve those tags. And so that's something you want to keep in mind too, that you have control over your own personal tagging as well. So it works on personal and business accounts. But like I said, you just have to be cautious on who you're tagging. The use of hashtags. So that's one thing that comes up always as well about using hashtags. So you always start with the pound or the hashtag symbol, depending on what it is that you utilize it as. And you won't use spaces, punctuation, or symbols. So that means all the words run together. But if you wanted to read a little bit easier, you would, of course, you can use some capitals. So you want to make sure your accounts are public. Otherwise, the hashtag content you write won't be seen by any non-followers. So if we are searching today, hashtag NCNW convention, and I use that on my posts, but I have a private account, so that means only my friends will see it. So if we have over 2,000 people here at convention, and if they wanted to search hashtag NCNW convention, only my 50 or 60 friends in NCNW will see it, and the rest of the participants won't. So that is what we mean by if your account is public or private. And of course, that is up to you. Don't string too many words together. The best hashtags tend to be relatively short and easy to remember, especially if you're promoting things. People have to type that out. If they're commonly used hashtags, when you start typing them out, they will auto-populate. Use relevant and specific hashtags. So just thinking about things that are relevant to what it is you're posting. So you want to make sure that if people are searching, they find your content actually useful. Limit the number of hashtags you use. So that's always a question on how many to use. I've seen paragraphs of hashtags, and sometimes I'm just like, 3 or 4 or 5 is all you really needed. But then again, you're trying to get your content to come up on more stuff and they're using more, but you also want to make sure it's relevant.
I try to use no more than 3, just because especially if you're using Twitter or doing something like that, you're using characters in that message. So if you can use 2 or 3, it kind of focuses what you're trying to say. For example, we always use NCNW strong as a hashtag. Why? Because we're not the only organization in the universe that acronym ends up being NCNW, and I didn't want that to go to Niles Kitchen Northwest. It could be anything. So that's why we use NCNW strong. And we've actually seen a growth. When I first came on board, I think it must have been about maybe 100 people, and now it's in the thousands that actually see that. So hashtags work. I tell people that your @ sign is like your phone number and your hashtag is your topic.
Good tips. So hopefully everybody is putting up a little hashtag today, NCNW convention, at least to start, and NCNW strong, regular hashtag NCNW. All right, so we have questions.
We have any questions? It's question time. Let's see.
Let's look in the chat to start with those. Can we all have the same website resources to have symmetry across section sites? So that of course is based on cost. So each section has to pay their own fee for their website. So that is your purchase of your URL. your domain name. So whatever it is, sectionname.org, you first must pay for that. And then you also have your hosting, which is your monthly fee to basically, be in the cloud, for your space in the cloud. So those are all dependent on prices on what your section will afford. If you're using I think one of the next question was about a recommendation for website platforms. It depends on what platform you are using for your website. So those also have monthly costs for your templates. So if you're using something like Site Builder or what's the other one? I think the one we're actually going to use, drawing a blank right now. But those all have different fees to basically use their hosting each month. It includes your hosting fee for the month, but it will also include use of their template as long as you're paying the monthly fee. So if you're also looking at using some other templates where you can pay for them upfront and then you basically own them, and then you don't pay a monthly fee, you just pay your hosting. So that's also something you want to look at what your section budget is. A way that sections have individuality is that we don't mandate the templates to look the same for the websites. However, if we're starting to all use the same logo and branding, there will be some symmetry there.
Correct. And there's sites, there's WordPress, there's Wix, there's Squarespace.
Yes, those are the names.
Yeah. It all depends on your level of comfort, and you're also having someone in your section, their level of ability. Some of them are drop and drag, some of them are encoding. You can get different themes for different things, but it's how much time you want to spend to it. And also, it's not necessarily about the look and the design as it is the information that's on it. I've seen some great websites with no information, and I've seen some sites, and I'll be the first to say, and I joke about it, but I say I inherited the current NCNW site. The first thing I said was I want to change it. Of course, it was built into our membership platform at the time. So as we're progressing, as you see, we've made some advances. When I first came on board, there wasn't even a sliding graphic on the front. But at the same time, we have to deal with the parameters. So hopefully in the next year and coming in 2020, we'll be able to even advance it more, connect our social media, do some other things, put a lot more information so that people can go there and use it as not just NCNW headquarters website, but an NCNW hub.
And someone asked, should we be using social media consent forms or disclaimers when it comes to local photos and tagging on social media? So when you are having events, you definitely, if you have children, I think that really comes into play when you have children involved, and making sure you have consent to use those photos of them. We have been doing a lot of stuff, virtually. So we are recording sessions. So of course we make it known that we are recording. So some things I've been into, they make you acknowledge that they are recording before you enter the group. So if you don't agree with being recorded, then, you're not going to enter the session. But mainly, a lot of things there should be some consent forms. If you're like outdoors, I know there's some rules and regulations with just, you're outside at a common, festival, things like that, your photo could be used. So it just depends, but definitely if you're going to use a photo of somebody in a way that, of course, is in a positive light, if you know who they are, you can identify them, you can ask. Like I said, if you're at an event and these people are non-members and you want to utilize their photo, definitely just ask that you can use it.
For the HBCU tour and also Adulting 101, as a part of the sign up process, we had information saying that we will be taking photos and using them with our literature and whatnot, and the fact that you were signing up, you agreed to consent to use that. We also had to put a section in there that was whether it was a student, a parent, or a guardian, so that way we were covered. Many of you know, Ms. Mathis is also a lawyer, so we made sure we had the right verbiage. But that is a point. It's mainly more on children because people are now accustomed to the fact that if they're going to be on Instagram or they're at a public space, it becomes public domain. Even celebrities, they're selfie posting so much that it's no longer become as much of a problem. But yeah, that's one of the things to think about, especially like she said, when you're dealing with kids. I see here that somebody asked, what's better, Wix or WordPress? It all depends on what you're trying to do. Wix is probably easier, but then its limitations are more than WordPress. It all depends on, like I said, the level of what you're doing. I've worked with clients with both. Um, Sometimes they're happy and sometimes they have to do a restart. Um, you're it's about investing in time and also creativity.
Right. So I would agree. Wix is definitely an entry level. WordPress, when you get in the back end, you really have to kind of know how to navigate where you're at, how to do things. So WordPress will be a little bit more complicated. But of course, with WordPress, you'll have more options and more templates and more customization.
And I think that we have reached our time. I would say to you that, again, Kevin Jahannes, you can reach me at NCNW headquarters, just not now because of COVID, I'm at home. But my email address is tjahannes@ncnw.org. Or if you have a social media question, if you have a question about this branding, we had social@ncnw.org where we usually handle all these questions. We usually go through that on a daily basis. And it kind of helps separate the business from the branding because you all have a lot of things. And that's also what we use when we're signing up to social media things. It's social@ncnw.org. I'd like to thank Ms. Jamerson for all this wonderful information. She's great. If you see me looking to the right, it's because I have two screens. I apologize. And thank you for taking the time out. If you have any questions, by all means, put them in the app chat room, and we'll try to answer them there. Even though you can do it after the event is over, and also email us. I'm sure I'm not going to speak for you, but I think if you ask her some questions, she might enlighten you on some of the things because she does a great job with the Manhattan section. And I also listen to her Tuesday on Facebook Moments that gives you tips and tricks.
Right. So I'm the owner of my design business, Artfully Made Designs. My website is artfullymadedesigns.com. I'm also a vendor today selling some of the NCNW merchandise. But more importantly, as Jahannes mentioned, I have been doing since the pandemic what I call Design Tip Tuesday. So if you go to My Artfully Made on Instagram or Facebook, you can find me. But on Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do these different tips and give ideas on branding and different things if you have your own business. But it is applicable to NCNW. Everything is a business and a brand, and it's how you promote it. So all of the information and content is useful. So if the content you thought today was useful, that's kind of the content that I talk about each week on Tuesdays. So once again, you can reach me via email at arionjamerson@gmail.com. And you can also check out, like I said, my website, artfullymadedesigns.com, and social media handles is My Artfully Made.
Thank you all. I hope everybody got something out of it, and we hope to talk to you soon as we move forward.
Thanks everyone for joining in today.